The church bells tolled like they were counting down to something no one else could hear. Riley tightened the black buttons on her coat, each click echoing like the steady ticking of a bomb she didn't know she was sitting on. The sky over Chicago was gray, heavy, and cold, almost like it knew someone's world was about to shatter. She glanced at the framed photo on the kitchen counter. Her husband Ethan and his mother, two arms wrapped around each other in a way that used to make Riley feel safe. That photo was taken 3 summers ago, but the man in that frame wasn't the same man sleeping upstairs right now. She poured herself a cup of coffee. Her hands shook, not because of the funeral, but because of the silence between her and Ethan these past few weeks. The kind of silence that isn't empty. It's hiding something. Then it happened. A sharp buzz vibrated the counter. Ethan's phone lit up. She froze. One new message. P. Her breath hitched. She told herself not to look. But curiosity has sharp teeth. She picked up the phone. One swipe, one message. We're still doing this, right? She won't see it coming. I'll meet you at the service. Her knees almost gave in. Her grip tightened on the edge of the counter. Who the hell is P, and what wouldn't she see coming? She heard footsteps from the stairs. She dropped the phone exactly where it had been. Ethan walked in, adjusting the sleeves of his black suit. His eyes looked red, like he'd been crying. But it wasn't grief Riley saw in his eyes. It was something else. A kind of weight she couldn't name. "You okay?" he asked. She forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." He kissed her forehead. It felt colder than the air outside. The church smelled like lilies and wet stone. People whispered in corners, faces pale with polite sadness. The coffin at the front was draped in white roses. Riley stood at Ethan's side, her hands folded, her eyes pretending to mourn with everyone else. But inside, her mind was replaying that text over and over. She scanned the rows, family, friends, strangers. And then, she saw her, a woman in a crimson-red coat, like a spark of fire in the sea of black, sitting in the third pew, not crying, not praying, just watching Ethan. Riley's breath caught in her throat. The woman wasn't alone. Beside her sat 2 little girls, maybe 6 or 7. One of them had Ethan's eyes, the same shape, the same green. Her heart started pounding so loud it drowned out the priest's voice. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. She flinched. His thumb brushed hers like everything was normal, like he wasn't hiding something so massive it could split the world in half. The woman in red tilted her head and smiled, not warmly, not politely, a smile like a secret. Riley turned to Ethan, but his eyes were fixed on the coffin. He hadn't even noticed her. Or maybe he had, and was pretending not to. "Would anyone like to say a few words?" the priest asked. Ethan stepped forward. Riley didn't hear a word of his speech. Not one. All she could hear was that text, and that woman's soft laugh as one of the little girls leaned against her. Her pulse roared in her ears. She didn't cry when everyone else did. She didn't move when Ethan stepped down. She only moved when she saw him glance, barely, almost like a flinch, toward the woman in red. That tiny flick of his eyes was enough to crush 17 years of marriage into dust. After the service, as people drifted toward the exit, Riley stayed back. She needed to breathe, needed to think, needed to understand. The woman in red walked slowly toward the exit, holding both girls by the hand. Ethan disappeared into the back hall with his cousins. Riley had a choice. She could walk out, or she could follow. Her legs chose for her. "Excuse me," Riley said. The woman turned. Her smile returned, controlled, almost rehearsed. Up close, she looked younger than Riley had expected. Sharp cheekbones, calm eyes, no trace of guilt. "Yes?" the woman asked sweetly. "Do we know each other?" The woman tilted her head again. "Not yet." Not yet. The words were knives wrapped in silk. Before Riley could say another word, Ethan's voice called from behind. "Riley?" She turned. Ethan was walking toward them. Fast. Too fast. Panic flickered in his eyes. Not grief. Panic. When Riley faced the woman again, she was already kneeling down, fixing the little girl's scarf. "Come on, sweetheart," the woman whispered to the child. "Say goodbye to Daddy." Riley's heart stopped. The word Daddy cracked through her chest like glass breaking in slow motion. The little girl turned her green eyes, Ethan's eyes, toward him and waved. Riley's hands went numb. Her mind screamed, but no sound came out. She stared at Ethan, at that woman, at the children who carried his face like a living confession. "Riley," Ethan breathed, stepping closer. "I can explain." She stepped back. The air was freezing, but her skin burned. "Don't," she whispered. Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of her mother-in-law's coffin. Not when the world was cracking wide open. The woman in red took the girl's hands and walked away as if she'd been waiting for this moment all along. Ethan tried to reach her. She didn't let him. Riley turned and walked straight out of the church, the sound of the bells chasing her like ghosts. Her entire marriage, her entire life, had just shifted on its axis. And this was only the beginning. "I thought I'd lost a mother-in-law that day, but what I really buried was my marriage." The next morning didn't come softly. It slammed into Riley like a storm. The coffee machine hissed in the kitchen. The clock on the wall ticked too loud. Ethan sat at the table in the same black suit he wore to the funeral. He hadn't changed. He hadn't spoken. And he hadn't looked her in the eye. Riley walked in quietly. She didn't need words. The silence between them had already said too much. Ethan finally spoke. "Riley, please let me explain." She stopped midway to the sink. Her fingers tightened around the mug like she could hold her world together through sheer force. "Explain?" she said softly. "What exactly? That the woman in red calls you Daddy in front of our entire family? Or that she has your eyes staring back at me from her little girls?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "It's not what you think." Her laugh was sharp. It didn't sound like her. "Then tell me what it is, Ethan, because I stood next to your mother-esque coffin while you stared at your other family like I didn't even exist." He looked at her then. Finally. But it wasn't the eyes of a man denying an affair. It was the eyes of a man drowning in something far worse. Riley set the mug down without drinking. She folded her arms. She wasn't going to break first. "Her name is Claire," Ethan said finally. The words came out brittle. "And the girls are mine." The kitchen disappeared. All that existed was the ringing in her ears. "How long?" Riley whispered. 8 years. The sound that tore from Riley's throat wasn't a cry. It was a broken laugh. 8 years, she repeated. "We've been married 17, so while I was building a home with you, you were—" "Riley, it wasn't supposed to happen like that," he cut in. "It was a mistake, a long time ago. I thought it was over. But it wasn't." Her voice hardened. "She was at your mother's funeral, Ethan. Not hiding. Not afraid. She came there like she belonged." Ethan's silence was answer enough. She moved closer, searching his face for the man she'd loved. The man who held her when her father died. The man who swore honesty on the night they married. But the man sitting at that table wasn't him. This was a stranger wearing his face. "Why now?" she asked. "Why show up now, after all these years?" Ethan rubbed his temples like the weight of it all was crushing him. "Because she's done hiding. My mother knew. She hated Claire. She made me promise I'd keep them away from the family. But now she's gone. And Claire, she doesn't have to stay in the shadows anymore." Riley staggered back like she'd been struck. Your mother knew? He didn't answer. She closed her eyes. The betrayal was layered. One wound bleeding into another. Ethan's affair, his secret children, his mother's silence. She whispered, "Everyone but me." Outside, wind slapped against the windows. The funeral lilies on the porch had begun to wilt. Ethan rose from the chair. "Riley, I made mistakes. I know, but I love you. I love our life. You're my wife." Her laughter was sharp again. "And what am I supposed to do with that, Ethan? Pretend those kids don't exist? Pretend you didn't build another life behind my back?" "I was protecting you," he said. "Protecting me?" Her voice trembled now. "Or protecting yourself?" He didn't speak. Riley walked out the door. She didn't slam it. She didn't need to. The silence behind her was heavier than any door could be. The air outside bit into her skin. She needed to breathe. She needed answers. She needed to know who Claire really was, and why she'd chosen now to step out of the shadows. She remembered the way Claire looked at her in the church. Not with guilt, not with pity, but with quiet power. This wasn't just an affair. This was a threat. Riley's car cut through Chicago's gray streets like a blade. Her hands were steady on the wheel, but her mind was chaos. She drove, not knowing where, until her headlights caught a small neighborhood she didn't recognize. Row houses, a swing in a front yard, two pink bicycles leaned against a white fence. She'd found them. Claire's house was neat, too neat, red curtains, a wreath still hanging from Christmas, even though it was March. She parked across the street and sat in silence, gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles turned white. She wasn't the kind of woman who followed people. She wasn't the kind who spied. But betrayal makes strangers out of the best of us. The front door opened. Claire stepped out. No red coat today. A soft gray sweater. Black jeans. No makeup. She carried a box of toys to the curb. She looked normal. Like someone living an ordinary life. A little girl ran out after her, one of his daughters, with a drawing in her hand. Claire knelt, kissed her forehead, and laughed. Riley's stomach twisted. The scene wasn't scandalous. It was warm. Too warm. Like a life that had been quietly living while Riley was sleeping next to a liar. Riley stepped out of the car before she could talk herself out of it. Claire turned before Riley even spoke. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Riley froze. Claire wasn't surprised. Not even a little. "You knew I'd come?" Riley asked. Claire smirked slightly. "I would have." The little girl ran back inside. Claire wiped her hands and faced Riley fully. No hostility. Just calm certainty. Like she'd already won something Riley hadn't realized she was fighting for. "I don't want to fight," Claire said softly. "I just want the truth to live in the open." "What truth?" Riley spat. "The truth that you've been with my husband? That you've been living a quiet fairy tale while I—" Claire stepped closer. "No, the truth that you were never the only one." The words hit harder than a slap. Riley's breath caught in her chest. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." Claire's voice was steady. "Ethan made promises to me too. Long before he married you." The ground seemed to tilt under Riley's feet. She felt like the whole world was shifting around her and no one had warned her it was coming. "Liar," Riley whispered. "You're lying." Claire only tilted her head. That same practiced, infuriating gesture Riley had seen at the funeral. "Then why do you think your dear mother-in-law hated me so much?" Riley's pulse roared in her ears. Claire leaned in just enough to make the air between them electric. "You thought you knew your marriage. You thought you knew him. But the man you love isn't the man you think he is." Then she smiled. Soft. Cruel. "And I can prove it." Riley stepped back, her heart pounding. "What proof?" she demanded. Claire didn't answer. She simply walked toward the door, glancing over her shoulder. "Come tomorrow night, you'll see." And with that, the door shut behind her. Riley stood on the sidewalk, wind whipping at her hair, the world spinning faster than she could hold it. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a war she didn't know she'd already lost half of. She didn't just steal my husband. She stole the truth before I ever found it. Riley had replayed Claire S. words all night like a stuck record. The man you love isn't the man you think he is. Come tomorrow night. You'll see. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. The world around her moved, the city breathing, traffic groaning, birds screaming at the dawn. But inside her, everything had frozen. The woman in the mirror, didn't he look like the Riley who planned her entire life around Ethan Carter? She looked like someone standing on the edge of a truth sharp enough to cut her in half. She grabbed her coat, shoved her phone into her pocket, and whispered to her reflection, "No more lies." The house was still quiet. Ethan was asleep upstairs, the same man who, until 2 days ago, she believed was hers alone. She looked at him once from the doorway. His chest rose and fell slowly, peacefully, as if he wasn't carrying a double life. Riley closed the door behind her. The address Claire had texted her sat folded in Riley's hand like a secret she couldn't burn. It wasn't Claire's house. It wasn't their home. It was something else. She parked 2 blocks away. Her pulse drummed against the steering wheel like a warning. The neighborhood was different. Upper West, cleaner streets, tall brick buildings, polished iron gates, the kind of place where people wore smiles like armor. Claire was waiting outside, no red coat this time. Black trench, hair pulled tight, a folder in her hand. She didn't smile when she saw Riley. She just nodded toward the entrance. "Ready?" she asked. "I don't trust you," Riley shot back. Claire's lips curved slightly. "Good. Don't trust anyone." Inside, the building smelled like lemon polish and old money. Claire led Riley up 2 flights of stairs to a small law office. Gold letters etched on frosted glass. Miller & Coase. Family law. Riley froze. "Why are we here?" "You wanted the truth," Claire said, pushing open the door. "This is where it lives." Inside, a woman in a gray suit sat behind a desk, flipping through a file like this wasn't a bomb waiting to detonate. She glanced at Claire, then at Riley. Her smile was polite, nothing more. "You must be Riley Carter," the lawyer said. Riley's heart skipped. "How do you know my name?" Claire handed her the folder. "Because you're in it." The folder felt heavy. The kind of heavy that could crush years of trust in a single glance. Riley opened it, and there it was. Ethan Carter, Claire Evans, custody agreement, pending. For a second, the air left her lungs. "You're suing him?" Riley whispered. Claire shook her head slowly. "No, he's suing me." Riley's stomach dropped. "He's trying to take the girls," Claire continued. "Full custody. He wants to erase me from the picture. He's been planning it for months." Riley stared at the paperwork like it was written in fire. Signatures, dates, lawyer stamps, Ethan's name everywhere. "This isn't possible," she whispered. "Why would he?" "Because men like Ethan don't lose control," Claire interrupted. "They take it." Riley's pulse roared in her ears. She remembered the panic in Ethan's eyes at the funeral. The way he reached for her. The way he called Claire's name without saying it. This wasn't just about an affair. This was war. "You think he's the victim?" Claire said softly, stepping closer. "But he's the one pulling strings you don't even know exist." "I don't believe you," Riley snapped. "You're just bitter because he left you." "Then ask yourself," Claire shot back, "why your name is on the paperwork too." Riley froze. "What?" Page 3. Her trembling fingers flipped through the file. There it was. Riley Carter, listed as legal guardian in the event of joint custody. It hit like a punch to the chest. Ethan had planned for her to raise his other children, without telling her. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes, but she held them back with the same strength she'd built over 17 years of loving a man who'd been lying the whole time. The lawyer cleared her throat. "Mrs. Carter, you should know. Mr. Carter's team has already filed preliminary motions. The hearing could be in less than 2 weeks." Riley couldn't breathe. "He filed?" Claire's voice cut through the silence. "He was going to make it look like I abandoned the girls, and then he was going to fold you into the narrative. His perfect wife, his clean reputation, a neat story. No one would ever question him." The walls of the law office felt like they were closing in. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a man building a future on her name. "I came to the funeral because I was done hiding," Claire said. "I thought if I forced his hand, he'd tell you himself." Riley glared at her. "And you enjoyed watching me fall apart?" "No," Claire whispered. "I wanted you to see the monster he really is." For a heartbeat, the two women stood there, one broken, one scarred, connected by the same man who had built a house of lies big enough to trap them both. Riley left the office without another word. Outside, the sky was turning a dirty gold as the sun bled through the clouds. She walked like a ghost through the city, every step heavier than the last. Cars moved, people talked, but none of it felt real. Ethan had lied, not just once, not just about Claire, but about everything. The marriage, the family, the life they built. A gust of cold wind hit her face, sharp as glass. She pulled out her phone. For the first time in 17 years, she wasn't calling Ethan as a wife. She was calling him as someone he'd just turned into an enemy. "Ethan," she said when he picked up. Her voice was steady, terrifyingly calm. "We need to talk." He sounded relieved. "Riley, thank God Don't!" she cut in. "You're going to tell me the truth, all of it, because if you lie to me one more time—" Her breath trembled, but her voice didn't. "I swear to God you'll regret it." Silence. Then Ethan whispered, "Where are you?" "Home," she lied. "Be here in 30 minutes." She hung up before he could answer. She stood on the street, hands shaking, adrenaline burning through her like fire. She wasn't the same woman who cried in a church, not anymore. The web was tightening, and this time, she wasn't the one caught in it. She was the one holding the knife. If Ethan wanted a war, he was about to get one. The night outside the house was silent, but inside, storms were colliding. Amina stood at the end of the long marble corridor, staring at the half-open study room door. A faint yellow glow bled out from the room. Her breathing was shallow, palms damp. For weeks, she had chased shadows. Tonight, she was ready to face the monster behind them. She stepped inside. The study smelled of old books, whiskey, and something colder, secrets. The mahogany desk was littered with documents, and there he was, Hyder, her husband. Leaning back in the leather chair, collar open, eyes burning not with guilt, but with defiance. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, swirling the drink in his hand. "No," Amina whispered. "Not since I realized my entire marriage was a lie." His jaw twitched. For a second, a flicker of something real crossed his face, but it disappeared behind a smirk. "You've been talking to her," he said flatly. "The woman in red." Her heart thumped. "Her name is Zara, and yes, I did." He slammed the glass down. Whiskey splashed across the papers. "Then you already know. So why are you still here?" Her voice trembled but didn't break. "Because I need to hear it from you, Hyder. I need to know how long you've been betraying me." He rose from the chair slowly, like a man accepting a verdict. "Since before the funeral, before she died." Amina's chest constricted. "Your mother knew?" Hyder's silence was the loudest answer. For years, Amina had painted their marriage as fragile but real. Now, she realized it was built on rehearsed lies. Flashback. The funeral day. The stranger in red had stood too close to Hyder's coffin-bound mother, whispering something only the two of them knew. Amina had noticed Hyder's trembling hands that day. Not from grief, but from fear. Back in the study, Zara appeared in the doorway, clutching a thick envelope. Her arrival was like a spark to gasoline. "Show her," Zara said coldly. Amina turned sharply. "What are you doing here?" Hyder exhaled, defeated. "She's not just my mistress." Zara stepped closer, dropping the envelope on the desk. Dozens of property documents, foreign transfer slips, and a marriage certificate spilled out. "He married me 3 years ago," Zara said, her tone sharp like broken glass. Amina felt the world tilt. Her knees wavered. For a second, she couldn't hear anything except the pounding in her skull. Her voice was a whisper. 3 years? Hyder didn't reach for her. He didn't even look sorry. "I had no choice," he muttered. "No choice?" Amina snapped. "You had a choice every single day you lied to me." Zara's eyes softened for the first time. "You should know. It wasn't just about love. There's money involved. A company under your name, offshore accounts. Everything she nodded toward Amina, owns." "What are you talking about?" Amina asked. Hyder finally looked at her, really looked at her. "Your father left you more than just the house. You were the gate. The marriage was business." The word business cracked something deep inside her. All these years, the anniversary dinners, the way he held her hand when she was sick, the night he cried when her father died. All rehearsed. "You used me," she whispered. "I survived," he shot back. "My family was drowning in debt. My mother was dying. I did what I had to do." "You married me." "Yes," he said coldly, "and it worked." The room's silence was heavy, thick. Zara didn't move. Amina stared at the papers like they were pieces of her shattered ribs. She wanted to scream, to break something, but instead she laughed softly, a broken, quiet laugh that made both Hyder and Zara flinch. "You could have told me the truth," she said. "I would have helped. You didn't have to destroy me." Hyder's expression cracked for the first time. Guilt flickered, then drowned under years of lies. Just then, the doorbell rang. It wasn't just any knock. It was forceful, repeated, rhythmic. Hyder's shoulders stiffened. "They're not supposed to come yet," he muttered. "They?" Amina asked sharply. Zara's face paled. "You didn't tell her about them." Before he could answer, the front door burst open. 3 men in black suits walked in like a storm. Their eyes scanned the room, cold and efficient. One of them, a tall man with a scar slicing across his cheek, smiled. "Mrs. Amina," he said smoothly, "we finally meet." "Who are you?" she demanded. "Business partners," Hyder muttered, but the man corrected him. "Debt collectors." Hyder froze. Zara whispered under her breath, "Oh no." The tall man placed a folded document on the desk. "This house, the accounts, the company, everything Hyder promised us. It's time to collect." Amina's world blurred. "Promised? He can't." "He did," the man interrupted. "And since all of this is under your name, the debt belongs to you now." Hyder's mask shattered. "I was going to fix it." "When?" she screamed. "After I lost everything?" The men closed in. Zara backed away. Amina didn't. She stood tall, even as her heart crumbled. "Get out of my house." The tall man smiled wider. "Oh, Mrs. Amina, this house was never yours." The threat was real. She could feel it in the air. She could see it in Hyder's terrified eyes. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. The woman who once trusted was gone. Hyder reached out, his voice breaking. "Amina, please." She stepped back. "Don't," Zara whispered. "They'll destroy her too." Amina's eyes narrowed. "Then maybe it's time I fight back." The tall man chuckled. Fight us? You're alone. She lifted her chin. Not anymore. The screen would fade to black here. Trust was gone. War was coming. And for the first time, Amina wasn't the victim anymore. The truth about Hyder's betrayal is fully exposed, but his hidden debts and dangerous deals put Amina directly in the crossfire. The storm outside had grown louder, but inside Amina's house, the real war had already begun. The three men in black suits spread out like wolves circling a wounded animal. Hyder stood in the middle, sweat pooling at his temples, his once sharp confidence crumbling like wet paper. Zara lingered near the wall, clutching her bag like a shield. And Amina? Amina stood straighter than she had in years. The woman who had been betrayed, used, and lied to was no longer shaking. She was calculating. The tall man with the scar leaned forward. "You've got 24 hours to clear the debt," he said, his voice slick with control. "Or everything goes, including this house." Hyder's voice cracked. "Give me time. I can fix it." "Hyder," the man interrupted with a grin. "You already sold your soul. Now we're just collecting the body." The other two men laughed. Zara flinched. Amina took a step forward. "How much?" she asked. The man turned to her, amused. "Excuse me? You said 24 hours. How much does my husband owe you?" He raised an eyebrow. $4 million. Zara gasped. Hyder's shoulders sagged. Amina didn't flinch. She walked to the desk slowly, deliberately, and began picking up the documents Zara had brought earlier. Offshore accounts, false signatures, property transfers. And there, her father's original company registration papers. "This is all in my name," she said quietly. "Which means legally, he can't give you anything without my signature." The man's smirk faded slightly. "Be careful, Mrs. Amina." "Oh, I am," she replied. "Because if this is under my name, then your deal is with me now, not him." Zara's eyes widened. Hyder looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. Flash cut. The funeral day, Zara's red dress glowing against the gray sky. Hyder's trembling hands. The moment Amina realized she'd never really known the man she married. Back to present. "You ruined my life for this," she said to Hyder. "But you forgot something. You taught me where all the bones are buried." She lifted her phone and pressed a button. A recording played aloud. Hyder's conversation from earlier that night. "My wife will sign everything. She won't fight." The tall man's jaw tightened. "You recorded us?" "No," Amina said softly. "I recorded him." Zara let out a shaky laugh, half shocked, half in awe. Outside, the sound of sirens grew faint but closer. Hyder spun toward her. "Amina, what did you do? What did you—" "I sent everything to the police 15 minutes ago," she said, her voice ice cold. "The accounts, the forged documents, your second marriage, everything." The tall man stepped forward. "You made a mistake." "No," she replied. "You did, when you threatened me in my own house. I've already sent copies to a lawyer, and by now, the authorities are on their way." The tension cracked like glass under pressure. Hyder grabbed her wrist, desperation replacing arrogance. "Amina, please. They'll kill me. You don't understand." She pulled her hand away. "You killed us long ago." The front door burst open. Police stormed in. Blue and red lights cut across the room like blades. Shouts filled the air as officers disarmed the men in black. Zara stepped aside, shaking. Hyder tried to run, but two officers pinned him down in seconds. "Amina!" he screamed, struggling. "I did it for us!" She stared down at him. "No, you did it for yourself!" The officers read him his rights. For a moment, their eyes met. She saw the man she once loved, the man who held her through storms. But all that remained now was a stranger shackled in his own lies. Outside, rain finally began to fall. Zara stood under the porch, silent. Amina joined her. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Zara exhaled. Because I thought he loved me too. Turns out I was just another piece on his board. They exchanged a look, not of friendship, but of shared war wounds. Weeks later. The house was quieter now. The documents had been sorted, the debts cleared legally once Hyder's fraud was exposed. His mother's inheritance, the one he tried to steal, had returned to Amina's control. The men in black were facing charges. Zara had vanished from the city, leaving only a short note that read, "Some scars don't fade, but they make us sharper." Hyder sat behind bars awaiting trial. Amina had visited once, not for closure, not for love, but to look him in the eyes and say the words she'd waited months to say. "You built this empire of lies," she whispered through the glass, "and now you get to live in it." He didn't respond. He just stared, broken. Final scene. Amina walked through the old house barefoot, the floorboards cold beneath her feet. The night breeze flowed through the curtains. For years this place had been her cage. Now it was her kingdom. She stood by the window, the city lights stretching endlessly before her. No wedding ring on her finger, no shadow behind her. Her voice, calm and strong, broke the silence. Some storms destroy everything. Others clear the sky. The camera would pull back slowly. Amina alone, but not lonely. Wounded, but not weak. The woman who was once a pawn had become the queen of her own story.